The void was silent, deceptively calm, as the first sensors of the Galactic Empire blinked warnings they had not expected. An unremarkable sector, charted, mapped, assumed empty, suddenly became the stage for a force they had long underestimated. Humanity's presence was subtle at first, a glint of metal against a distant star, a ripple in the gravitational field, but every observation made the Empire's commanders uneasy. They had faced civilizations that boasted fleets thousands strong, worlds that produced warships in endless columns, and yet, the readings from this corner of space hinted at something different. The Terran ships emerged from behind asteroid belts, sleek and deadly, moving with a confidence that spoke of intelligence and instinct in equal measure. They were fewer in number than the Empire had anticipated, smaller than the colossal warships of the fleets the galaxy feared, but each vessel radiated calculated menace. Every thruster, every energy conduit, every shield pulse seemed choreographed, a testament to a species that had learned not just to survive the void, but to command it. The Empire's flagship adjusted course, massive hull bristling with weapons and shields designed to obliterate, yet sensors picked up something unsettling, patterns of movement, subtle but precise, that indicated strategy far beyond what they had encountered in previous campaigns. Reports of human tactics from minor skirmishes had been dismissed as exaggeration, legend, or luck. Now, the data confronted them with an undeniable truth: these were not myths. Humanity did not simply fight, they orchestrated, they adapted, they anticipated. As the Terran vessels aligned in formation, the very fabric of space seemed to respond to their presence. Ion storms, once unpredictable hazards, were navigated with exacting precision. Radiation belts, magnetic eddies, and asteroid clusters became shields and weapons alike. Every human ship moved as part of a greater whole, a single consciousness expressed through steel, energy, and firepower. The Empire's commanders whispered in disbelief, unable to reconcile their centuries of experience with the undeniable clarity of what they were witnessing. And then, the first salvo erupted, not chaos, not fury, but perfect execution. Energy pulses struck at the most vulnerable points, torpedoes maneuvered with unerring accuracy, and fighters darted like living predators through fields of plasma and molten rock. The Empire's fleet recoiled, shields flaring, weapons redirected, as the humans demonstrated what centuries of underestimated resilience, ingenuity, and unshakable pride could achieve in a single decisive moment. Even in the quiet that followed, as debris and drifting energy lit the void like silent fireworks, the message was unmistakable: this was no mere raid, no casual encounter. Humanity had arrived, and they had done so with purpose. The Galactic Empire, arrogant and assured in its supremacy, was confronted with a realization that would echo across every sector of their dominion. A single, undeniable truth cut through the void: the humans had not shown their full strength. The Galactic Empire's fleet surged forward, confident in their numerical superiority, their colossal warships cutting through the void like predators claiming territory. Energy shields hummed, weapons arrays spun to life, and the first volleys of plasma and torpedoes streaked toward the Terran formation. But the humans did not flinch. Their ships moved with precision born of experience and instinct, weaving through deadly fire with a fluidity that defied expectation. Each maneuver was calculated, each trajectory anticipated. What the Empire believed to be chaos was, in truth, a meticulously orchestrated dance of war. From the bridge of the Indomitable, officers monitored every incoming attack, predicting enemy vectors with uncanny accuracy. Torpedoes that had been engineered to obliterate were redirected, intercepted, or absorbed by the environment, only to explode moments later in chains that devastated the attackers themselves. Alien dreadnoughts floundered as gravity pulses subtly warped their courses, magnetic anomalies trapped squadrons in slow-motion chaos, and plasma storms became invisible barriers that the humans navigated with ease. Every hazard, every variable, every assumption of the Empire was exploited, transformed, and inverted. Fighter wings darted like living shadows, striking isolated cruisers, then vanishing into the cosmic tumult before retaliation could even be organized. Molten planetary rivers erupted at precisely the right moment, shrouding human movements in blinding heat and light, while asteroid belts shifted under gravitational manipulation to crush the overconfident enemy formations. The Empire's numerical advantage became irrelevant. Every vessel moved into a trap they did not even perceive. As the battle intensified, the Terran fleet began to demonstrate something more than tactical genius. They showed adaptability beyond expectation. Every failed maneuver of the enemy was a lesson immediately incorporated. Shields were reinforced where they were weak, energy pulses recalibrated to exploit environmental anomalies, and fighter formations adjusted in mid-flight to counter the Empire's attempts at flanking. This was a species that had not merely learned to survive, they had mastered the art of inevitability. The Empire's flagship, massive and bristling with weaponry, attempted a decisive strike, surging into the heart of the Terran formation. Gravity pulses erupted from the Indomitable, twisting the flagship's course and immobilizing its engines. Smaller dreadnoughts collided with asteroid fields that had been nudged into their path by subtle calculations. Torpedoes fired in desperation were intercepted and returned, dismembering their own fleet. In every direction, the humans had anticipated the impossible and turned it to their advantage, and yet, even in the midst of destruction and chaos, humanity's strategy was not just about brute force. Moments of quiet precision punctuated the battle, ships hovering in the void to assess the evolving threats, officers analyzing enemy tactics in real time, and fighter wings repositioning with silent grace. Every pause, every calculation, every action reinforced a single, undeniable truth. The humans were not merely engaged in combat, they were orchestrating inevitability itself, as debris drifted. Illuminated by distant starlight, the Empire's commanders realized the terrifying scope of what they faced. Their pride, centuries in the making, crumbled in the wake of a species they had underestimated. The Terran fleet moved with purpose, intellect, and relentless will. The galaxy would soon learn that when humans entered the void, it was not merely a battle, it was a statement. The humans had not unleashed their full might. And the Empire had no idea what was coming next. The void had become a theater of human mastery. Every pulse of energy, every flicker of thruster fire, every movement of a fighter wing was a note in a symphony of calculated destruction. The Galactic Empire's fleet, once the pinnacle of war and conquest, found itself ensnared in a web it could neither comprehend nor escape. The humans did not simply react, they anticipated, adapted, and transformed every hazard into a weapon. Asteroid fields, once considered navigational challenges, became mazes of death. Terran engineers had predicted their drift patterns with meticulous precision, using gravitational pulses to subtly shift trajectories. Enemy ships collided with the floating rocks, torn apart before their shields could respond. Plasma storms, normally chaotic and indiscriminate, were exploited with deadly timing. Human fighters darted through searing arcs of energy, striking exposed alien hulls while remaining untouchable. The very environment had become an extension of human strategy. The Indomitable, colossal and awe-inspiring, moved at the center of this storm, its hull gleaming with reflective starlight. From its bridge, officers coordinated a ballet of war. Energy pulses were synchronized to exploit magnetic anomalies, torpedoes were guided with unerring accuracy to intersect enemy ships at their most vulnerable points. Smaller frigates darted like shadows, weaving between molten fissures and lightning-charged voids, striking where the Empire least expected. Every attack, every maneuver, every retreat was executed with a precision that seemed impossible to the alien commanders. Morale among the enemy collapsed. Commands were shouted across vast distances, but the Terran fleet had already anticipated each response. Dreadnoughts floated helplessly as gravity pulses twisted their engines into immobility. Cruiser formations broke apart as asteroid clusters shifted into deadly corridors. Fighter wings were annihilated mid-flight, victims of traps so precise they appeared preordained. The Empire's arrogance, built over centuries of conquest, was crumbling under the relentless weight of human ingenuity, yet the humans did not rely solely on destruction. They demonstrated subtlety and foresight. A frigate would pause to scan a storm, repositioning its shields to exploit environmental feedback. Fighters would hover in apparent hesitation, drawing alien ships into zones of vulnerability. Every tactical pause was calculated, every silence a setup for the next decisive strike. The battle was not just fought with firepower, it was fought with intellect, anticipation, and unshakable pride, and then, in a moment of unparalleled strategic brilliance, the humans executed a maneuver that would be whispered across the galaxy for generations. The Empire's flagship, massive and menacing, surged forward in what it assumed was a final, decisive assault. But the Indomitable had anticipated the trajectory. Gravity wells pulled the flagship off course, while hidden torpedo spreads converged from multiple vectors. Smaller dreadnoughts, trying to flank, were trapped in shifting asteroid corridors. Fighters darted between molten fissures, striking exposed hulls before vanishing into plasma storms. Every attack, every defensive measure, every movement was neutralized, leaving the Empire exposed and vulnerable. The battlefield itself had become a weapon, and the humans wielded it with masterful precision. The Empire realized, in horror, that they were not facing a fleet, they were facing a force that had turned the cosmos into an instrument of inevitability. Every assumption, every prediction, every notion of superiority was being shattered before their eyes. The humans were not simply surviving. They were dominating. In the silence between attacks, debris floated like monuments to human skill. The Empire's commanders, once confident in their supremacy, now faced the staggering reality: the Terran fleet had not revealed its full potential. What they had witnessed was only a fraction of human might, a prelude to a power that would redefine the balance of the galaxy. The message was clear, undeniable, and terrifying: humanity had only just begun. The battle had become more than a clash of fleets, it was a demonstration of human ingenuity and willpower writ across the void. Every light year of space transformed into an instrument of strategy, every celestial hazard leveraged with surgical precision. The Terran fleet moved as a single, living entity, the Indomitable towering at its heart, engines humming with quiet authority, energy conduits pulsing in rhythm with human intent. Around it, frigates darted through plasma storms, fighters weaved through molten fissures, and torpedoes curved along paths no algorithm could predict, but the humans had mastered instinctively. The Galactic Empire's commanders struggled to comprehend the scale of their predicament. Every assault they launched was preempted, every flanking maneuver countered before it could materialize. Gravity pulses warped trajectories, asteroid belts were subtly shifted to collide with the overconfident, and ion storms became invisible walls, guiding enemy vessels into traps that required no human hands to touch. The Terran fleet had transformed chaos into order, danger into opportunity, and the universe itself into a weapon of unprecedented efficiency. In the midst of this orchestrated storm, human pilots executed maneuvers that defied every known law of combat. Fighters darted in precise arcs, diving through lightning-charged clouds to strike isolated cruisers, then vanishing into molten plumes as if they had never existed. Torpedoes redirected mid-flight, curving around shields, threading through debris, and striking at the most critical points of alien dreadnoughts. Each moment was a dance of death, a display of foresight, strategy, and instinct woven together into a tapestry of dominance. The Empire's flagship, colossal and bristling with weaponry, attempted to reclaim control, surging forward with devastating intent. But the Indomitable had anticipated the approach. Gravity wells twisted the flagship's engines into paralysis, while human frigates exploited its momentary vulnerability, striking exposed conduits and shield generators. Smaller cruisers, flanking in desperation, found themselves crushed by drifting asteroids subtly nudged by human-engineered gravitational pulses. The battlefield itself had become a weapon, and every aspect of it had been claimed by humanity. Morale among the alien forces eroded rapidly. Commands were shouted in a panic, but the Terran fleet had already predicted every reaction, neutralizing them before they could even begin. Dreadnoughts floated powerless, cruisers collided with hazards that had been carefully engineered to exploit every miscalculation, and fighter wings were obliterated before they could even fire a shot. Centuries of pride, built upon conquest and domination, were being dismantled in a relentless wave of human strategy and ingenuity. Yet even as the Empire crumbled under relentless precision, the Terrans displayed subtlety beyond mere destruction. Ships hovered in quiet observation, fighters paused mid-assault to assess evolving threats, and energy pulses were adjusted to exploit every environmental anomaly. The humans were patient, calculating, and adaptable, never hasty, never reckless. Every pause, every tactical retreat, every seemingly minor maneuver was a preparation for the next decisive blow. Then came the turning point. The Indomitable and its escorting fleet executed a maneuver that would be studied for generations, a coordinated convergence of gravitational distortions, plasma eruptions, and torpedo strikes that left the Empire's fleet scattered, immobilized, and decimated. Every warship, every squadron, every dreadnought was caught in a perfect storm of strategy, intelligence, and unyielding human resolve. The Empire realized, in horror, that they were no longer merely losing, they were witnessing the complete mastery of a species they had underestimated at every turn. And in that quiet, haunting moment between waves of destruction, the humans made their declaration to the galaxy. The full strength of humanity had not yet been shown. The void had become a crucible, a place where every calculation, every maneuver, every human instinct was tested and proven superior. The Terran fleet moved with quiet inevitability, the Indomitable at its center, colossal and unyielding, engines thrumming with controlled power. Around it, frigates carved through molten fissures, fighters wove between lightning arcs, and torpedoes followed paths so precise they seemed guided by thought itself. Every element of the environment, the plasma storms, asteroid belts, radiation flares, had been turned into instruments of destruction. The Galactic Empire's commanders stared at the unfolding devastation in disbelief. Every strike they launched was anticipated, neutralized, or turned back upon them. Cruiser formations fractured under gravitational anomalies subtly induced by the Terran fleet. Dreadnoughts, bristling with weapons meant to obliterate anything smaller, drifted helpless as their engines faltered under the calculated influence of gravity wells. Fighters that attempted to flank human positions were annihilated mid-flight, cut down by strikes that seemed to anticipate every evasive maneuver. Humanity's mastery was not limited to raw firepower. Every pause, every observation, every minor repositioning was part of a broader design. Fleets moved with purpose, exploiting patterns in enemy behavior, using chaos itself as a weapon. Even the Empire's most disciplined squadrons were caught in traps that required neither luck nor improvisation, only the foresight of a species that had learned to read the cosmos as a battlefield. The Indomitable unleashed a series of energy pulses, not in a frantic display of force, but with surgical precision. Each pulse bent the surrounding plasma storms, creating barriers and funnels that directed enemy ships into collision courses or exposed weak points. Torpedoes curved through space, threading the needle of debris and magnetic distortions to strike critical hull points. Fighters darted in and out of molten eruptions and lightning-charged clouds. A living network of predators hunting with perfect coordination, the Empire's flagship attempted a desperate assault, surging toward the heart of the Terran formation. Gravity wells twisted its engines into dysfunction, and smaller dreadnoughts, trying to intercept, collided with asteroid clusters subtly shifted by the humans. Torpedoes fired in retaliation were intercepted, redirected, and returned, dismembering the attackers before they could even unleash their volleys. The Empire's superior numbers, technological might, and centuries of assumed dominance crumbled under the relentless execution of human strategy. In quieter moments between the devastation, the humans displayed their brilliance in subtler ways. Ships hovered to analyze evolving hazards, fighters repositioned with patience, and energy pulses adjusted to exploit newly forming anomalies. Every action, every pause, every calculated retreat set the stage for the next wave of precision strikes. It was a species not merely fighting, it was orchestrating inevitability itself, transforming every threat into advantage, every hazard into a weapon, and then, the final assault began. A convergence of torpedo spreads, energy pulses, and gravitational manipulation struck the Empire's remaining fleet simultaneously. Dreadnoughts drifted powerless, cruisers collided in disarray, and fighters were obliterated before they could react. The battlefield had become an extension of human will. a testament to intellect, foresight, and unyielding resolve. The Empire, once arrogant and assured in its supremacy, now faced the horrifying truth: the humans had not even begun to unleash their full might. As the last flashes of energy faded, and debris drifted silently through the void, a single, undeniable message echoed across the galaxy. The Terran fleet had turned inevitability itself into a weapon. The battlefield was a quiet tempest, a void littered with the remnants of an empire that had believed itself untouchable. The Terran fleet drifted through the debris, engines humming with quiet authority, shields shimmering faintly against the backdrop of distant stars. The Indomitable led the formation. Colossal and unyielding, a monument to human ingenuity and pride. Around it, smaller ships performed precision maneuvers, scanning the wreckage, recalibrating for threats that no longer existed. Yet even in this calm, the aura of inevitability lingered, the unmistakable imprint of a species that had mastered war itself. The Galactic Empire's remnants huddled in the void, flagship crippled, dreadnoughts drifting powerless, and cruiser formations fractured beyond repair. Commanders could only watch, their arrogance shattered, as humanity demonstrated that superior technology alone was not enough to dominate a species defined by intellect, resilience, and unbreakable will. Every assumption they had made, every strategy they had relied upon, had been dismantled in a series of calculated maneuvers that transformed space itself into a weapon. Even as the humans assessed the battlefield, they did not gloat. Their victory was methodical, disciplined, and deliberate. Fighters hovered over molten fissures, energy conduits pulsed in measured patterns, and torpedoes lingered in standby, a quiet promise of precision should the enemy attempt to regroup. Humanity's triumph was not merely in destruction, it was in demonstration, a statement that no force, no matter how vast or arrogant, could outthink a species that had learned to see the universe as an extension of its will. The Empire's flagship, once a symbol of untouchable power, now floated crippled among drifting debris. Its weapons were silent, shields flickering in exhaustion. Every maneuver it attempted had been predicted, every strike turned back upon it with devastating accuracy. The humans had not merely defeated their enemy, they had rewritten the rules of engagement, demonstrating that ingenuity, adaptability, and unyielding resolve could overcome even the most imposing might in the galaxy. Humanity's tactics had turned hazards into allies, chaos into strategy, and fear into an instrument of victory. Plasma storms, asteroid fields, and molten rivers, once neutral forces of nature, had become integral components of the Terran strategy. Every environmental challenge had been anticipated and mastered, every anomaly exploited to turn the impossible into certainty. The Empire had assumed superiority in numbers and firepower, yet it was outmatched in intelligence, in creativity, and in determination. As the last vestiges of resistance faltered, the Terran fleet held its formation, engines glowing softly, energy pulses humming in quiet rhythm. The galaxy had witnessed a revelation: a species underestimated, laughed at, and dismissed had proven itself unstoppable. The Galactic Empire, once unchallenged, would now remember the cost of arrogance, the day it faced humanity at its best, and found itself utterly unprepared. And in that profound silence, stretching across the void like a promise, humanity made its statement, simple yet absolute: they had not shown their full strength. The void itself seemed to acknowledge it, stars shimmering in quiet resonance, as if the cosmos itself bore witness to the fact that the humans had emerged not merely victorious, but sovereign in intellect, will, and pride. And somewhere in the distance, drifting among the remnants of shattered dreadnoughts, the first faint pulses of new engines stirred, the promise that humanity's story in the galaxy was only beginning. The Empire had underestimated the species of a small blue planet. That mistake would never be repeated. Humanity endured. Humanity prevailed. Humanity commanded the stars.